here to see Karen Rollins? No? Okay, because she's next. And if anybody's here to see Cindy Riggs, she was before me. So how many people are here to see or hear or talk about Akashic Records? Oh, darn, I'm in the right room. Okay. Rule number 1, you will laugh. Rule number 2, I do stand on my head. Rule number 3, I give out many messages. If you don't want one, chances are you will be the first one to get one.
Ooh, awesome.
For poor John in the back, I tend to walk and pace, so that's his problem now. If you have questions, though, please ask me. The worst thing for me is always, oh, wasn't that entertaining, but I didn't figure out what I wanted to know. So I don't want to talk at you, I want to talk with you. Yes?
How do you say the word?
Which one?
Why we're here?
Oh, that one? Akashic Records.
Akashic.
Akashic. Comes from the word Akasha, which means spirit. So how many people have an idea of what Akashic Records are?
Kinda, yeah.
Cool. Anybody want to throw out what they think it is? There's no right or wrong, so it's not a graded test.
Record of everything.
Yeah.
Record on everything? Past, present, future?
I was telling him, because he wasn't sure, I said it's kind of like a library. A spirit record, a library where you go to, access your record.
This is, let's see if I can do it all in one breath. This is what I use for my workshops. Are we ready? If you're taking notes, trust me, I don't repeat this because I can't do it more than once. It is documentation that is energetic for any and all living things, past, present, and or future. On this planet, outside this planet, within our solar system and outside. It is probable futures. Futures are not written in stone. It is past, though. That help a little bit? All right. Now, people will laugh and say, how big are things and how little? There's nothing too big or too small for the Akashic Records. Yes?
Does it actually reside in a different space?
Dimension?
Along those lines, but...
That's a really good question, and I wish I had a really good answer. Well, I'm not going to give you everything. Everybody accesses them differently. So some people will look at it as an energetic vibration above our normal one. Some people look at it as a different dimension. To me, the best answer I have is, where is the World Wide Web? Yeah. It's there. We know it's there. We can work with it. We can access it, but we can't really put our finger on it. That's why I say, I wish I had a better answer. But usually it's a vibration. So sometimes, like dream work, when you're in an altered state of consciousness, you'll get information from it. That help a little bit?
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, cool. And again, just throw out questions as we go. Now, for me, Akashic Records, and I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I actually teach workshops on it, and I will also help people with information in their records. So for me, it's all about empowerment. Now, Akashic Records is not divination. So when you say past, present, and future, again, future is a probability, not written in stone. And it's not like a tarot card reading where, I'm about to give out a big one here. How's my love life? First of all, never ask me how your love life is, because unless you know me, I'm a stranger and it sucks. Okay, that's just my general thing. But ask me, what is my soul agreement with so-and-so, and what have we contracted to do? Now that I can tell you. But don't ask me, am I going to get a promotion? I'm like, I don't know, do you work hard? That's more divination, pendulum, tarot, psychic types of things. Akashic Records is more of a soul level. It answers the whys rather than the will this happen. Does that make sense? This is where I wish I'd brought a bottle of water. This is where I figure out, too, I'm really out of shape. So when you work with your Akashic Records, though, it's all about, what am I here for? What am I here to work on? What am I here to learn? What's my agreement with a person? Why are we together? Why did that person leave me? Those types of things. So is there any other things that you can think of that you might want to work on your Akashic Records, or maybe the Akashic Records would or wouldn't be a good place? If you have questions, ask them. Okay? When you look at Akashic Records too, it's not just physical lifetimes. I recently had, not an argument, I guess more of a debate, where somebody said, well, lifetime has a start and an end date, and the spirit is eternal. And I'm like, okay, all right. To me, it's all the same thing. There's different chapters, if you will, because what I look at is different than a lot of people. Of course, I tend to look at most things differently. That's my own cross to bear. But I look at it as segments. So we have physical incarnations, and then we have between life incarnations. Now, has everybody heard of Edgar Cayce? Okay. Edgar Cayce was known as the sleeping prophet for one good reason. He accessed the records in a semi-conscious state. So when I work with records, I do it in a conscious way. I don't want you to have to go to sleep. If I'm teaching you how to do this, I want you to be able to interact with them and remember what you're doing. So that's one big difference, because people go, if I take your workshop, do I need a lecture, to bring my pillows and things? No. Although I have had some people that did wish they did bring their pillows. That's a different story. So with Akashic Records, it's all about finding empowerment. How many people have a fear that they would like to overcome? I got a ton of them. I got so many issues, I have my own magazine. I'm the poster child for issues, you know? A lot of times, though, our fears and phobias, if we can't figure out where they came from in this lifetime, it could be a past life. When I was real small, being afraid of water, and I grew up in Minnesota, never have a fear of water if you're growing up in the land of lakes. My father was taught to swim in the Mississippi River by his father throwing him off the bridge. If they made it, and he had two brothers, if they made it back to shore, they got to go home. If they didn't, there was more food for everyone else. But yeah, we put the fun and dysfunctional in Minnesota too. So literally, my dad would take me out on boats and go, here, swim. I sink. I have an aura that's real heavy, evidently. I just sank. And he'd say, paddle, kick, and I'm like, I can't. And I could never figure out what my fear of water was until I realized that I had drowned at sea. And then it was like, oh. Now don't get me wrong, I'm still not real crazy in anything bigger than my bathtub or a jacuzzi, but I'm working on it. I figure I still got time. But a lot of times those past life fears will come forward. How many people think, I would love to be able to be more prosperous, and no matter what I do, it never works? Yeah? Doing all the steps, positive intentions, law of attraction. Well, what would you say if I told you in an Akashic record reading, you took 5 vows of poverty as Catholic priest, and now we have to change that energy?
I believe you.
They weren't all simultaneous, though. You're having a real hard time now with the conclave thing going on, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Feeling a little kind of shaky and disoriented? Mm-hmm. It's that Catholic past life influence. And I kept thinking at some point in time, I'm going to run across somebody this weekend that they're like, okay, this is really shaking my foundation. And it's an energetic foundation. It's kind of, I don't know what this means, but I think it's you. It's not bad.
The weird thing is, I had a reading this morning and the term Akashic Records came up,
Mm-hmm.
which I wasn't really familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd heard of it, that's all. So that's why I decided to come to this.
That's the way it works.
What reader was that? Because I owe them money. No, I'm teasing. You should see when I do the lecture, how to choose a reader. Boy, I got readers lined up going, here, slide them all to my booth. No, but that's really good, because Akashic Records is a system of understanding and knowing that it just opens so many possibilities. Because a lot of times, if you feel like you're just beating your head on the wall, you're doing everything, it's not changing it. It could be you're doing it energetically correctly, but you have a blockage energetically in a past life or in your energy body from another lifetime that you chose to work on. How many times have you thought you worked on something, it's overdone, you got the t-shirt, and it pops up again?
Yes.
So what I call universal pop quizzes. And this is where the universe goes, did you really get it or not? And you're like, because when those come up from, I'm like, oh my God, how many times do I have to do this? And then I stop and go, oh, this is a choice to make a good decision. And it gets easier. The more you have to go through something and you have to learn from, chances are it is a huge life lesson that you chose to work on in this lifetime. It didn't make it easier, did it? Little comforting maybe, though? Yeah, I know. I get that a lot from people. Thanks. So I have a question for the gentleman. Yes. Are you in school?
No, not right now.
Where is journalism, photography, AV, all of those things? Do you know what that means?
Well, my mom was the director of mass communications
Okay.
at Central State University.
Are you thinking about,
My roommate is a photographer.
okay, but are you leaning towards that?
Uh,
Okay. There's something really important with you with information you're here to communicate. That's one of the big things that you came into this lifetime to work on, is communication with other people. Now, you can choose to do it one-on-one, or you can choose to do it with larger groups of people. The family, the fold that you're in right now, will allow you to do it on a larger basis, but you have a lot of things to share. Maybe not for a couple years, because there's some things you still are working on yourself, but it's really important that you step forward once you're comfortable with some of the things that you've gone through and who you are, because I mean this in the best possible way.
Yeah,
If you're an Aquarian, you would get this.
I am.
All right. You're a little different.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being different. How many other Aquarians are there in the room? Because Aquarians rule. I got to say, I'm Aquarius. But we are a little different. And we do things a little differently. So your differences that you may think are handicaps right now, they're really not. They're blessings in disguises. And once you can embrace those and present those to other people, they're going to go, wow. If nothing else, if you can hold on to that when things get really, oh my God, I don't want to do this, it'll help. Okay? Yes, Aquarians have a lot of good things, and yes, we get this a lot though. Yes. Usually when we're walking away from people. My husband, after 24 years, still does it. My son, who's 31, goes, I don't know her. And I'm like, but we look alike. And he goes, I don't know her. And he's like, I know. It's my burden. So, is there any questions right now about Akashic Records? Okay. When you're in between lifetimes, though, you have that between lifetime where you choose to work on what's coming up in your next physical incarnation. Does that make sense? All right. We have a chalkboard. If you're lucky, this is the number of lifetimes and in between lifetimes, but I'm not saying this represents any one person in this room because I'd be claiming it. So let's say that these are physical incarnations and these are between lives. Okay? So when we're in between life, we work on soul agreements. And that means that at some point, you and I looked at each other and said, we are going to go through high school and be best friends. We're going to raise hell, and we're going to get in trouble, and we're not going to tell anybody about it. And if you were a little older, it would have worked. But all of these things with the agreements, spouses, children, parents, those things. My poor son, I literally looked at, and he'd go, I wish you'd been Betty Crocker. And I'm like, I wish you chose better. Do I strike you as a Betty Crocker type? I was his room mother in 5th grade, and he was like, I'm going to flunk. I just know it. I'm going to flunk. His teacher just looked at me and went, really? Now I know why this child is the way he is. But that was his agreement with me. He wanted Betty Crocker. I wasn't Betty Crocker. He had to learn to adjust his mold of what a mom would be. Now, it wasn't until he got in his 20s that he looked at me and he said, any Scorpios in the room? Okay. You know how hard it is then when you admit something that, you don't want to have to admit to somebody else? Yeah, my son's Scorpio. He says, well, I didn't want to have to learn about chakras when I was 6. And I didn't want to know about auras at 7. And I didn't want to know about stones at 8. And I didn't care I had a spirit guide as I was a teenager. But when he got to his 20s, he realized he had a different education growing up that made him very different. He was able to come back and go, all right, I still wish you'd been Betty Crocker so I'd ate better. But he accepted. So that's where we learn from our agreements with other people's. There's good times and bad times. Now, how many people think they've met their twin flame? Oh. Twin flame is, at the time of creation, when a spirit, this is my interpretation, when a spirit is created, it is split into two equal parts that balance and complement each other. Okay, so you literally have another half of yourself floating around. Sometimes they're physically incarnated together, sometimes they're not. But a lot of people are like, I have to find my twin flame to be in love. I will tell you this. Is anyone here hoping to meet their twin flame? If you want to meet your twin flame, be prepared to be driven crazy. I'd like to test the theory. Mine can outrun a 38. He won't stand still that long. But we have a whole lot of other soul group people that we can have. Most people, when they think about a relationship, what they're actually looking for is what I call a partner. And that's that loving, nurturing, gentle person. Then we have people that are our nemesis. They push us to be better. We have naysayers that they're like, my sister literally, I gave her a t-shirt that said, no, it's not going to work. Because her job throughout my whole life has been to go, it won't work. It won't work. It won't work. Which makes me try harder and rethink and replan. But then you have the people that it doesn't matter what you do. You could say, I'm going to build a rocket and fly to the moon. And they'd go, you can do it. A lot of times these are our parents. This is what I call the cheerleaders. Then we have the people that it's nothing but enabling relationships. And it's like, oh my God, no matter how hard I try to get away from them, they won't let me go. And it's all about learning to be strong. So we have all of these numerous soul mate relationships that we can work through. And they're not all good. They're not all bad. It's how we choose to react to them that makes them good or bad. But in between here, we can also look at and say, oh, I have some karma I need to repay. So I don't believe that karma has to be between the two people or the two spirits. I feel it can be repaid in other ways. For example, if I hit you and it goes all the way around the room, and then it comes back and you hit me, that's karma, right? But let's say it goes through and you say, no, I'm not going to do that. You've broken the karma. Everybody else forgives it, releases it. I'm still holding on going, it's going to be coming back to me. I'm literally ducking every time because I know it's coming back. If I can learn to forgive and release it, you broke it for me, now I have to change it for myself. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So sometimes taking the higher road, you do it not only for yourself, but you do it for other people as well. Because if you're working with your record, chances are there is a small thread somewhere where it is attached to another person's record. Any questions?
Can anybody access the records?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I am not a certified Akashic record reader. Do I look like I'd fit into a program? Well, maybe, but not without steps. I know. To me, I always laugh and go, if I can do it, so can you. But it's all about vibration. And that's why, to me, humor, the moment you laugh, you raise your vibration. That's why I try to make people laugh. Because I do view it as an energetic level or a vibration that we're working on, anyone can do it. It's like buying a house. Do you call your realtor every time you want in your front door? They're your records. If anyone has the divine spirit, creator, God-given right to access them, it would be the person that it's their record. Meditation, journaling, Tai Chi, reading a good book, being relaxed, soaking in the tub. Anything that you can release, ground, and elevate. Elevate. It'll be my word for the day. your vibration, will help you to access your records. You can do it through meditation. You can do it through dream work. I didn't do this at the beginning. I have an office in Grandview. I take appointments. I have a booth downstairs. I have 3 books that came out last year on angels. I have an app for the iPhone and iPod. I have crystals. I'm in the corner. I'm such a bad vendor. I'm in the corner. I'm not even a real booth. I'm teasing. I have a radio show that's weekly. I'm the editor and publisher of Dreamweaver magazine. And I am the new chair for Universal Light Expo. So, but I have a CD that will help you get to your Akashic records. I always forget to promote myself, and that was my New Year's resolution. Sorry for the inserted commercial there. But yes, you can do it through visualization as well. Yes. So if anybody does see my husband go, yeah, she did plug herself. I'm so much better at plugging everybody else. I'm sorry?
What's your booth number?
I'm literally in the corner where you come in the front door and the ticket counter is, just in a U-turn.
To the right. Oh, wow.
Yeah. We've got a tree with crystals. To the left. Yeah, when you come in, to the left.
Oh, okay.
Yep. We got a tree with crystals at the front of the booth. So, but there is a CD meditation. It's on releasing limitations, and it's the only one I've done so far, but the musician is a very dear friend of mine, and I let him choose which one to do. And this man was literally at a crossroads. He didn't know if he wanted to continue to be a New Age musician or not, and he now has 3 CDs that have come out since this one. And he goes, I guess it works. Is there any questions? Yeah.
I know you can access your own records and you can access other people's records, but do you have more success accessing other people's records than your own? Because with your own, you kind of have some emotional attachments to them.
Yeah. First of all, I won't access anyone's records without their permission. So if somebody comes to me and says, well, I want to know about my relationship with my spouse, I can only do their portion from their record regarding the relationship. But yes, I am horrible when it comes to my own records, because we all have that desire and that want and that, oh my gosh, I hope. I've been a reader for over 20 years, just generic reader. I won't even do readings for myself. I won't read my family for that same reason. So even though you can access your records, sometimes you do want that validation or that verification that what you're getting is right, because our ego kind of bumps into the way and goes, oh yeah, that's a good idea, go do that. So a lot of times I'll tell people, start with things that you know. Ask for explanations of, why did I choose this field or career? Why did I do this? Why, and then build on that, because the more that you use it, the more that you work with it, the stronger it becomes, and you'll be able to trust it a little bit more. Yeah, but I'm also a very cynical reader too. A lot of times I'll look at people and go, could I be any more vague for you? They get the information, they know what it means. I don't have to. So with my own, I sometimes have that own, can't get out of my own way. It was a great question. Anything else? All right. Are you thinking about retiring or changing careers?
You talk to me all the time.
Okay. With you, I see a very structured system, like banking, legal, those types of things, where there's a lot of regulations and policies, and there's not a lot of free flow creativity. Does that make sense?
Sound good.
I'm sorry, sounds good?
No, it doesn't sound good.
No, it's because it's very pinned in. And anyway, the message I have for you is that you need to just expand. You need to let go. You need to stop thinking. You need to just be and let it flow into where it's supposed to be. Can I ask you what you do for a living?
Take care of everybody. No, I don't. I'm a writer, but I'm working on a novel, but not.
Okay. Are you facing some challenges then with this, thinking that there's
No, my
certain
challenges are
procedures?
with other people.
Okay.
My life is not bad. I have a a relationship with, now this is my wonderful granddaughter.
Okay.
But I have a grandson that has a lot of problems, and my daughter.
If you will write down his birthday for me, just the month and day, I'll see what I can get for you. How's that?
Thank you.
Just slide me a piece of paper. If anybody else wants to do that, I'm more than happy to. Okay. There is a teacher in this room. Where is the teacher? All right. You're like me, sitting at the back going, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me. You recently, and by recently, I'm talking the last 6 months. I won't go back as far as 9. I want to stay with 6 months. There was something that just kind of like a light bulb went off for you. There was some emotional things that were connected with this, but you can look back and now, I'm really glad that happened. Maybe not the way it happened, but I'm really glad it happened. So 1, shake off the dust. Pat yourself on the back because they're telling me that you're almost at the end. It's like you're 99%. It's like the ribbon is right here to cross the finish line with it. But is this got to do with energy work?
I teach a lot of energy work.
Okay. Is this something that has freed up your energy to take it to another level?
Yes.
Okay. Because it's so close. I mean, just another maybe 2 weeks, and you're going to really see that it's all settled and fine. Mercury's retrograde. So let Mercury retrograde pass, which is like next week, and then you're really going to be able to say, and celebrate it though. It's really good, and you really need to congratulate yourself and pat yourself on the back because most people may not have been able to do this the way that you did it. You did it with a very graceful, stiff upper lip, and they're saying, well done. Okay. I'm sorry, he's a Sagittarius. All right. Okay, I'm just going to hold this for a second, okay? All right. You're an intuitive, yes? Uh-huh. No? You don't do intuitive work?
I've been working on it.
Okay. Please don't take this wrong.
It's okay.
What I'm hearing is that you need to look at people and go the hell away. It's you do so much for other people that you're like, okay, I'm going to meditate and I'm going to practice today, and you get 5 phone calls and you're like, okay, yeah, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And you need to stop putting yourself on the back burner. You need to stand up and go, no. Usually when I teach people the lesson of no is when I look at them and go, now I'm going to charge you twice what I quoted you. And they go, no. And I'm like, see, it wasn't that hard. And people wonder why I have prosperity issues. I don't know. Yeah, another one of my issues there, see? But you just need to learn to stand you do so much. You deserve it. So celebrate you by literally putting a do not disturb sign out and then honoring that. Because if you don't do it for you, nobody else is going to do it for you. Okay? This one right here, and I don't mean to pry, okay, but what I get is there is outside influences, and these are chemical. I don't know if it's alcohol or not, okay?
You're right.
So, got a good heart, but he's vulnerable, and he doesn't believe in himself, and you need to point out the positives. He's gotten stuck where he's looking at the negatives, and he doesn't see the positive because he doesn't think he's worth it. You need to remind him that he is, and if it means you have to sit down and do something do it. Do it for his own good. The problem is he may not respond, so it may have to be over and over and over, but do it because you love him, because there is a tremendous spirit in there that just needs to have that shell broke so he can emerge. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hold in there. It's going to be rough, probably until the end of the year, but he'll be so much better. Yeah. Okay? Any questions? I'm not that good. Okay. So, why would you want to work with your Akashic Records? If you could change any one thing, what would it be? Anybody? All right, while you think about that one. Okay. Because I'm going to help you here. If you, as Sylvia Brown would say, work with me. But I'm happy to offer you some alternatives if there's things that you'd like to do to make changes or improvements in your life. One of the things sometimes that we have this problem with is, I call these Akashic Imprints. Now, Spirit wants you to believe this. Spirit being God, Creator, Goddess, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I'm not here to theologically debate that part. Spirit wants you to believe this, wants you to live it, wants you to love it, wants you to celebrate it, because that's how Spirit looks at you. Okay? Now what happens is over time, for example, I want a Porsche. And then I go, I don't deserve a Porsche. So what happens is these little doubts start to come in. And I am worthy because I am not worthy. And then sometimes as we're growing up, we have siblings and friends and bullies on the playground, and that little doubt becomes a bigger doubt. And over time, what happens is one day, bold, underlined, italics, the whole bit. And you start falling into this pattern. Now the nice part is you can change that. Because if you think of a drop of water on a rock, the first time, doesn't do a whole lot, does it? A couple thousand times, it starts to etch in. And that's exactly like your Akashic records. Every time you think something or somebody says something, it can change the records. Okay? Somebody once told me, well, why don't we make that I'm noteworthy? So let's take out that space and just make it I'm worthy. My niece is 16 and in high school. I wouldn't be a 16-year-old girl growing up now for nothing. And she comes home, and my niece is absolutely adorable. Good inside and out, but she is a typical 16-year-old, and she comes home and she hears all these things and all this stuff. And I look at her and I'm like, oh, Kayla, would you like to learn some spell work? And she's like, will it help with school? And I'm like, yeah. And she says, what? And I said, we're going to go back and we're going to pretend we're 4 years old. I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say to me bounces off and sticks to you. And she goes, well, that's not a spell. And I'm like, if you believe it. Now, people can tell you you're not worthy 1,000,000 times a day. Is it going to impact your records?
If you believe it, it's up to you.
Yes, if you believe it. That's the big thing. So there is some responsibility here with this. You can choose what to believe and what not to believe. Then you've got those universal quizzes that come in, and it's all about choice, making different choices, and those are good things too. So all right, I told you to think about what would you like to change. Anybody have something that they'd like to change? New job? Okay. New job? Okay.
Career.
All right. One of the big problems with jobs is we get locked into this financial thing. So I'm going to ask you first, don't look at money as money. Remember I told you I'm Aquarian. Earthquake. Look at money as energy. Okay, don't look at money as money. Look at it as energy. First of all, if you are spread too thin and totally stressed out, and watch your checking and savings account start to fluctuate seriously or bounce checks, okay? Look at money as energy. Find what makes you happy. Now, I know that sounds very cliche. Talking to the woman that's self-employed on multiple levels, and I can't even complain about my boss because she's psychotic and would attack me. I get it, but you have to find what makes you happy. So even if you have the worst job, if you change your attitude about it, that will be one step. My mother, for years, who just retired on December 31st, she for years has said, I would shovel for the right amount of money. And for years, I have listened to her say, I hate my job. And I'm like, hello? She goes, I really like my paycheck, but I hate my job. I'm like, gee, I wonder why. No, she didn't work in a stable. She worked for a big energy company here in town. In fact, we can probably see the building from here. Yes, yes, yes. But I teased her, and I'm like, do you not understand that by saying for the right amount of money, I would do this, change it. So the last 18 months or so, she was getting to the point where she'd go, okay, I'm going to find things that make me happy outside of work. So until you can find those niches with careers, find things outside of work that make your heart happy. Okay? And then allow that happiness and that joy to overflow into your work schedule. Okay? If you like stones and you work in an office situation, try fluorite. Amber is another one. It will help keep negative influences away from you. Okay? I don't know who's working in an office that wants to. Who has the nasty coworker that they like their job but wish the coworker would quit or retire? Okay. All of a sudden it was like, right. Are you sure? Because there was no hesitation there. Do you want to think twice about this? Okay. Right. Do you work in a cubicle type of an environment? All right. Try fluorite, amber.
I was just saying, I'm going to go stock my cubicle with stuff.
Yeah. Now, if the person that annoys you or that is a real irritant, first of all, understand that it's your reaction to them that's part of the problem as well. If you don't engage with them,
I don't. And
Okay.
I think that aggravates them.
which could be, if
They're
they,
looking for that rise out.
yes, it's, people are like, well, so-and-so's a bully. And I'm like, stop feeding back into it. Look at them and go, I don't care. Yes. But if you can energetically put a mirror towards, especially if your cubicles adjoin one another, then, okay, then place a mirror in a very subtle location. Because, you know, Lord knows we don't want somebody going, what have you been up to? And you go talk to Tammy. No. But that helps reflect back to them the energy that they're sending you. Rose quartz is always wonderful. It's soothing, comforting, loving. Always good for that. Sometimes it's those subtle shifts that help break that. But don't feed into it either. Any questions? Yeah.
So, okay, when you say you're accessing the Akashic records, and for example, you said this gentleman might have been a Catholic priest who formerly. What kind of questions do you ask to get to that point where you get that kind of information?
You want to be somewhat specific. Okay? I have a lot of people that say, just tell me what my records need to know. I'm like, really? I charge by the hour.
Like, can you give like an example of a line of questions that would get you somewhere?
Yeah. What am I here for? What does my relationship with so-and-so? What is the spiritual meaning behind it? What lessons am I here to learn? What gifts do I have that I've not tapped into? What karma? And even you can take that down to the next level of, what is it I need to work on at this time in regards to my karma or my challenges or my lessons? Yeah.
And so sometimes the answers you receive, quote unquote answers, would be like a thought form, for example, oh, in a past life you were a priest. Is that kind of how it works for you?
For me, yeah.
Okay.
It could be, okay, this is not going to be a good example with this one, but he was 3 years old and his parents filed bankruptcy and he learned lack. So he has to change that. So that's a present lifetime one, but it could have enhanced or triggered the past life keys. So a lot of times when we take strong spiritual vows though, those are what I call root causes. Those are buried back energetically and we're still reacting to them. Yeah. So for me, sometimes it's past life, sometimes it's present life. Yeah. And when I get more than one past life, I will ask, what is the one that needs to be addressed now? And then it comes forward.
So if you're asking a question and you're getting information in some way, visually or audio or whatever, how is that different from a spirit guide answering your question or knowing that you're accessing the Akashic records?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
Do you right now talk to your spirit guides and angels?
I don't.
Okay. For me, well, first of all, if you see it, chances are you're more clairvoyant. If you hear it, you're going to be more clairaudient. If you feel it, you're clairsentient. And no matter which one you are, you don't want to be that, you want to be something else. It's just the general rule of thumb. So figure out which one is strongest for you, which of your psychic senses, and then build on that one to expand into the other ones. I both see things, hear things, and feel things. It's not always a good thing. So, I'm sorry?
It's a trilogy.
Some days. So when you work with it, I've had to, over the 20 plus years, I hear guides on one side, angels on the other. Now for me, when I go into the Akashic records, does anyone here think they have gone to their Akashic records? Okay. Now, and since you think you might have, you have a feeling of totality, an inner peace that you have never felt before. It literally is like going home, which takes an entirely different meaning than the words. Does that make sense? Have you felt that?
Somewhat.
Okay. Chances are you probably were in your Akashic records then. Yeah. It's unfortunate that if you've never felt it, you know it when you get there. But if you have felt it before, you can recognize it because it's hard to describe. It's hard to put into words because it's a very unique experience. I know we're wrapping up. So one of the things, if you work with your records, a lot of times it's the Akashic Library, the Book of Life. Do not limit yourself into thinking that it has to be a book with pages. It may be a scroll. You may be a nature person and you're working to get to your records and all of a sudden you go, oh, what pretty clouds. Well, stop and look at the clouds and maybe they have images in them. Maybe there's words. Maybe it's, don't have a preconceived idea or notion of what your Akashic records will look like. Be open to them. I've had people do spirit guides and angel things where they literally go, no, that's, no. And I'm like, well, how insulting was that? And aren't they just going to welcome you back with open arms when you get there and you go, nope, that wasn't what I wanted. Think outside the box. Allow it to be. It's an individual experience. It's not going to be the same for any two people. But that feeling inside of you, that's what you're looking for. If you try to get to your records, you don't work. Tried, can't do it. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. How many people meditate? How many people meditate every day? How many people meditate every day and never have a problem meditating? You know, like the SOB just cut you off, took the last parking spot in the lot, you had to walk. It's raining, uphill both ways, that type thing. You come home, you throw your keys down, I'm going to meditate.
That's good.
Yeah, like that's going to work. Same thing with Akashic records. Remember, it's energetic. And if you're tense and you're stressed, Go take a nap. Go soak in the tub. Go walk your dog. Find something that makes your heart happy. That will help release the negative energies and elevate your vibration. Yeah.
So, do you have to work at accessing your records, or can you just experience something and it be a form of accessing the records?
It depends on the person. It depends on the person, and it depends on the question. And sometimes they just say, my God, you need this information, we're going to give it to you. And it will come to you either in a dream or a daydream or a journaling, and you're like, what was that?
Can it come to you before you're even aware of the phrase Akashic Records?
Sure.
I feel like I've accessed it many times, but I never knew it at the time.
Sure. How many people in here have heard of their guardian angel? Or worked with your guardian angel? Well, did you know you had a guardian angel when you were young? Oh, see, the cool thing about spiritual things, they believe in us. We don't have to believe in them or know about them. It's still there. So yeah, it can happen without the conscious awareness. In fact, sometimes it happens better without the conscious awareness because we allow it to be. And that's where you just kind of step back and allow it and don't have those preconceived notions of, I didn't spend 3 hours in meditation after a 4-day cleanse. Oh, please.
So then why is it that some people can experience things like that and other people can't? Is it because they do and they're just not aware of it? Or is it because of where you're at in your soul evolution or whatever?
It probably has to do with lifetime themes. It probably has to do with what they're here to work on, being individuals, their paths, the choices that they've made. Yeah, and sometimes it's easier for one person and it's harder for another, but there's something else that the two balance on where it's harder. That makes sense? Just because it's easy for one person, it's just, that's where they are. And there's no right or wrong, just practice. Yeah, practice, practice, practice.
Don't you think sometimes though, when you have a block, when I experienced it, was when I was having a block myself and I couldn't get there. And I actually reached out to the appropriate person to help me get through to it.
Well, and the other thing too is there's no shortcuts.
No.
Now, if I tell you all this information is in the Akashic Records, I'm laying odds that not a one of you ever have been on the Warren Commission and need to know who shot JFK. It is a somewhat need-to-know basis, which is why I won't access other people's records either. So it could be that maybe what you were looking for, they're like, we want to give this to you, but you still got to do A and B before we give you C.
Yeah, and I was kind of bumping up against, I was going through it. I'm a very emotional, very feeling person, and I was bumping up against everything and not getting the answers I wanted. And I actually sought out. Well, actually, somebody had given me, it was kind of a weird situation. Somebody had given me a book on a plane, told me this book I should read. Didn't know the person at all.
And actually, what I'm getting is you needed to learn protection because you have empathic tendencies, so you really needed to learn how to put your walls up and boundaries up so that you weren't being overwhelmed by other people's energies.
Absolutely. And she said, you really need to read this book. And I was like, okay. Stuck it in my purse, didn't look at it.
But when the time was right.
3 years after, and I was bumping my head, and I said, I can't figure out why I'm having these feelings.
Yep.
I read the book. The book led me to the person who could help me. And I didn't know the word for it until today, what I did. And it's powerful, but I think you get it when you need to get it.
Yeah. Exactly, and there's no such thing as coincidences either. I threw that word out a long time ago. I also threw my conscious out when I figured out what karma was. So is there any last minute questions before we finish up? You got one?
I got a question.
I thought you were signing me back there. What?
2 minutes left, no. I believe that readings can be influenced by interpretation of the reader. If you're accessing the Akashic Records yourself, is that going to improve the accuracy?
Okay. Thanks, John.
That's a thinker.
How many people have heard of walk-ins? Okay. Walk-ins, the general concept of a walk-in is that someone is very low emotionally, physically, whatever, and another spirit will trade places with them to complete their physical incarnation so they don't have to go through and be a child. So they switch places, if you will. I'm not a real big walk-in fan. I know what it is. I know people that say they are. I'm cool with it. I just don't really know about it. I am the one that I get people that they walk up and they're like, I'm supposed to have a reading with you. And the first thing I hear is, they're an alien. I don't do the alien people. I'm like, are you sure you want me to read you? And they're like, yes, because you don't believe. I'm like, and they go, you verified it, here's your money. So I'm like, yay, short readings. But a reader cannot tell you what they themselves do not believe. They have to be very unbiased, and that means, so some readers can, but not all readers do. But I can't tell you how to sing an opera if I've never been to an opera. It's outside my realm of experience. We can only share and teach what we ourselves are familiar with. But with Akashic Records, there is a lot of times that they will give me things and I'm like, what is this? And then I have to go on my own little tangent to figure out what things mean. And I'm like, oh, okay, I have a better idea what that is now. So I know for me that when it's something I know it's not me, that I have to go, that it's really coming from a different place, because how could you come up with something that you don't know? So does it improve accuracy? You have a red hat on. If we went downstairs, you'd have 20 people that go, oh, red's anger. Sorry. This is usually meaning I'm not supposed to say this. You think I'm kidding.
Somebody's keeping you from saying it.
Then you would have 10 people that would say, red is grounding, red's sexy, red's this. Because we all have different perceptions of the same words. Except for me at the moment. I apologize.
You want a drink?
Yeah, but it's not water. Spirit's going to do this to me. I want to get even. So, because we have different perceptions of the same words, this is why 10 people see the same thing and have 10 different stories. We can only explain and take it forward from where we are at the moment. John, are you thinking about starting a new business?
Kind of, yeah.
Is this something that you talked to Kit about?
To Ken?
Uh-huh.
I'm waiting to talk to Diana Rankin to talk to Ken about that. Unless maybe you can get in touch with him for me.
First of all, he's laughing and he's going, how many times did we lay in bed and talk about this late at night when we were out of the country?
Separate beds.
Each separate. TMI. But it is something that the two of you kicked around, is that right?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. You need to move forward with it. And it's important that you not let too much grass grow under your feet, because otherwise someone else is going to take advantage of it and do it.
I understand.
Do it. That or I'm channeling the god Nike. Just do it. Sorry about that. Yes?
In the case of a walk-in, Akashic Records.
Certain life energies will continue to flow forward, like certain lessons, they agree to fulfill those things. But then, like, the records kind of have an overlap, interwoven, and then they can separate back out.
Can you tell if a person's
Usually, yeah, but I don't want to. Yeah, it's just not really where I go, but it's all right. So I appreciate you being here. Hopefully I made you think about one new thing. I apologize for coughing at the end.
Not your fault.
But if I made you think about one thing today, I did my job, and I wish a wonderful weekend for everybody. And thank you for sharing an hour with me.
Thank you.